Welcome to the second day of India Global Forum. We are here to explore and shine a light on New India Inc., India's digital transformation. Delighted to be here in Bengaluru at the Taj West End, India's Garden City. We're in India's city of science and technology, bringing together entrepreneurs, senior government officials, business leaders, all who are driving really positive change. An enormous hello to our online audience. Hello to you around the world. And if anyone here sees something that they would like to share, please do use our hashtag IGF Summit. You will want to share today because we have an incredible program. We're going to be exploring India's plans for ambitious financial growth with the Honorable Finance Minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, and we will bring her questions from 30 of India's unicorns to her on the stage. There's so much more to come, but first of all, to welcome us, kick us off, I'd like to welcome founder of India Global Forum, chairman and CEO of India Inc. Group, Professor Manoj Ladwa. Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day as well to you.
How are you?
I'm a little nervous.
Are you?
Absolutely fine. No, thank you very much.
Good. You've got some special announcements for us.
I've got a few things to say. So
all right.
I'll leave you to it?
I'll leave you to it.
Okay,
I'll be over
you
here
very
if
much.
you need me.
Thank you. Friends, over the last day and a half, we've been deliberating and debating what New India Inc. means to India and also to the world. We've showcased Digital India. We've showcased the power and potential of Skilled India, and indeed of Stand-up India. But friends, what better example of the new, modern, aspirational India than having Her Excellency the Honorable Finance Minister of India in our midst, the first ever female Finance Minister of India. Please give her a very warm welcome. And Madam, you may have noticed, and I may have breached some protocol, there were no flowers, there were no garlands, there were no sweets. Because I wanted to welcome you on behalf of everybody here, our members and our partners, with a commitment. And that commitment is that through India Global Forum, we're announcing today an investors network. A network that will come together and support, through mentorship, through money, and through networks, Indian entrepreneurs to go global. And Madam, on this wonderful day of International Women's Day, I'm proud that we will make the first commitment to support 75 women entrepreneurs go global. And 75 is a magic number, because it is India's independence, 75 years of independence. And I'm delighted to share with you some of our friends that have come together as our founders of this network. It's open to many others, so please, if you're interested, do join us. The second is an invitation to join the journey of India Global Forum as we take the story of India Inc. globally. We're in Dubai in December. We're here in the epicenter of New India Inc. in Bangalore. In a few months in June, we will be in London, then in New York in October, and then back to Dubai, telling the story of the dynamic, aspirational New India. So please join us. We'll be announcing a program of membership as well in the coming weeks, and we'd like you to be part of this. Not because you're interested in making money or making networks, but because we're all proud of this country and the good that this country and the force for good that it can do for the world. That's our primary objective. And if along the way you do make some money and you make some great networks, so be it. But our primary objective is much higher. So without further ado, I'm delighted to welcome on the stage Her Excellency, the Honourable Finance Minister of India, Nirmala Sitharaman.
Thank you very much. Where do you want me to be?
Thank you. Come and have a seat here.
Out here?
Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you very much, and to you too.
Thank you very much. So lovely to be with you. This conversation will be in two parts, so I'll have a few minutes with the Honourable Minister, and then we're going to invite our collection of unicorns to ask a few questions. Is that okay?
Absolutely fine.
So, Prime Minister Modi has been speaking about Amrit Kaul, and your recent budget is really designed around putting this into action. Taking, as Manoj said a moment ago, India from 75 years to 100 years of independence. And the world has taken note of this incredibly ambitious budget document. Ambitious goals of inclusive growth, technology-aided development, healthcare transformation, energy transition and climate action, and a cycle of investment fueled by the private sector. And interesting that Manoj made that announcement just a moment ago. But I'd love you to give me an overview of what you're trying to do.
Thank you for having me here, and also thanks, Manoj. You've always been one of those very energetic, trying to get India on the top always, and that effort has actually today taken shape like this. And I'm very appreciative of all the efforts that you're putting to get India across to the globe. This budget is somewhat special in that it continues from the last, which was a pandemic time creation, the budget itself, coming up with the formulations for recovering the Indian economy since after the COVID-19. But even as we did that, soon after the budget was announced, you had the second wave, and we had to supplement the announcements made in the budget with additional doses of support to the sections which were hard hit by the second wave. So bringing that to be continued from last year, because we took the formulation that capital expenditure through public building of infrastructure itself will be the only route through which our recovery can be expedited. But this becomes special because not only because you're continuing from last year, but also making sure that recognizing we are at the 75th year of India's independence. The next 25 years leading India to be at 100 years are very critical for our development. For such a development where you shall be the leader in very many areas where our Indian youth have shown their capacity in using technology, in showing that entrepreneurial skill without having to be, run of the mill, by being great disruptors. So we understood the strength, and that has been manifested in very clear ways in that for a country during the pandemic, with all the lockdown and its restrictions, you still could manage 42 or 45 unicorns within 2 years. That's actually the power of the youth, the power of idea, the power of showing that entrepreneurs are capable of delivering. And that's what we saw during these 2 years. So this budget is special because we recognize that power. We recognize that nearly 60% of Indian population are young and revving to move, and that Indian population, which is all below 30 years of age, will in the next 25 years be the next generation to bring out the best talents that India can put out. Therefore, we wanted this budget to speak for the next 25 years, create an India where not just basic amenities, but technology-driven amenities will be available, give every facilitation that these startups require, these young entrepreneurs require, and make sure for that the basic framework and fundamentals of infrastructure, whether it is optical fiber, whether you need the necessary framework for Industrial Revolution 4.0, whether you can have deep dive into deep tech, for which you need certain kinds of investments. We have announced all that in this year. So when we refer to the Amrit Kal, it's more and more of digitization, more and more of technology, infusing technology into a country in every aspect of our business is going to be a challenge, because we are also labor rich in the sense intense skilled, semi-skilled, partly skilled, high technology skilled youngsters are in abundance. So how are we going to have these two sit side by side without hurting each other?
Tell me about that. How are you going to have these two sit by side?
That is where this budget is very unique. One of the examples where I can answer this question of yours is when we chose 14 champion sectors for which the government would give for every additional unit that they may produce incentive. We made it a point to understand that these have to be such units, manufacturing units, which can scale up big time, which can produce for India but also produce in India for exports, capture the global market, for which our youngsters have enough skill, and we also have to supplement upskilling the resources which are required for upskilling these skills. So the selection of the champion sectors, for which the very popular productivity linked incentive, even in this budget we've given a huge big allocation for it. So the productivity linked incentives given to 14 champion sectors were chosen because they are the ones which can scale up. They are the ones which can also bring in great labor employment potential, and they are the ones which will now give India the additional strength and also leverage the technology abilities that we have. So the 14 champion sectors for which government is giving all the incentive are the ones which have a very good balance of technology and using of human resources.
Do you want to say more about those 14 sectors?
They are also sunrise sectors, largely. They are also the new sectors where we want India to have the lead, not without reason, because we have the skills for it, we have the scaling up potential here, and especially when since early 2020, the world is looking for sourcing their materials, sourcing the requirements that they have, consumers also looking for markets and for being part of the global value chain from outside of just one country. Why not it be 1 + 1? I'm not naming the country, that country plus one. We are not just plus one now, we are the one on many things. And we are the one in that country which is fairly law abiding, has shared value systems with many of the democratic countries, and above all, truly democratic, I would think. Truly democratic. Let people tell us that we are noisy in democracy, but that's how it should be. Democracy, after all of us will have to speak, and democracy is what India stands out for. And I don't want to take this opportunity to lecture, but we are truly 916 KDM gold worth democracy.
So we're all mindful of the lives that were lost during the pandemic. The recovery, as you mentioned, has been incredibly powerful, and that story of the number of unicorns birthed in the last 2 years is truly remarkable. India's GDP growth forecast to be the fastest of all the large economies, 9.2% for 21-22. But the challenge, not just for you, but for every finance minister in the world, is to revive the private consumption while containing inflation. And we spoke yesterday to some of these folks about the challenges of that, about supply chains. So I wonder how you look at this. How are you going to approach this challenge?
I see that the private consumption is already sort of picked up, and picked up significantly. It can pick up more is a different issue. But for us to pretend that private consumption has to be addressed separately as different from addressing the supply side issues is also trying to ignore the fact that economy is not watertight compartments. They are not several compartments which doesn't flow from one to another. And when you give a good substantial push to a supply-driven solution, the benefits of that accrue to the demand side also. It is very well to constantly remind ourselves that we need to address the demand side issues. The way in which an economy like India addresses its demand side issues is also to look at the bottommost layer of our population, which has several disadvantages. You need to ensure that they don't remain hungry. We need to give them food. We need to ensure that they are not uncertain about the food requirements that they and their family may have, and also to meet their emergency expenditures which arise out of, let's say, health situations. For health emergency, we have given our population the Prime Minister health scheme, through which paperless and Pradhan Mantri Arogya Yojana, that's what I was looking for. Arogya is health. So the PMAY is the one which enables many common citizens of this country who are particularly in the bottommost rung, paperless, cashless medical facility in most of the government hospitals, in all government hospitals, and in some empaneled private hospitals as well. So not only the medical health of that individual, but every member of the family is being taken care of. It's a kind of government ensuring their health requirements. Second. And third, we are also, during the lockdown, I distinctly remember, we had given money directly using the DBT for the elder citizens, the senior citizens, particularly women among them, and also for women in the households, of the poorer households, and the disabled, who we call as Divyang. So for their requirements, for the lockdown period requirements, cash was transferred into their accounts. So when we do all this, we aim to see them being able to address their demands with cashless system or with some money where it is required. One small example I will like to take is in the last 3 years, generic drugs being sold through outlets, which are called Jan Aushadhi Kendras. Aushad is medicine, Jan is common citizen. So medicinal requirements that you, pharma requirements, you go to a pharmacy and take your medicines on payment, you pay certain amount for a branded drug. Whereas even if it's OTC, whereas when unbranded generic drug which can serve the same purpose is sold through the Jan Aushadhi Kendra, they are sold for, I am consciously saying this, 1/10 of the price in some cases, let's say 1/5 of a price in some others. Even life-saving drugs are available in these Jan Aushadhi Kendras for absolutely unbelievable rates, which many people have said has cut down the medical or medicine requirements of the family by at least 1/3. And if that is the kind of difference that we are making to the common person's lives, these are also demand side of the economies. You take care of the medical requirements, you take care of their medicines, you give them some cash to live, and make sure till March 31st this year, clear 2 years after the COVID set foot, we've given free food grains for the bottommost rung of the population. 2 full years. I'm not sure if any other part of the world has seen the poor being supplemented for food requirements. And also cooking gas was given to them during the lockdown period that year till December in 2020. So the demand side is being addressed in the ways in which it directly makes a difference to the daily livelihood of the person, and probably not in the way in which some of our opposition leaders want it. Each of us suit ourselves and we pick up a formulation which makes the most difference to the person at the ground. It doesn't matter that I may not take the suggestion given by an opposition, but if my way is not effective, I'm ready to be scrutinized and criticized. But it is effective, and we are saying it.
I'd love to ask you loads more questions. We've got people champing at the bit here, but one more.
And would you suggest I talk less in answers?
No, I think you're doing a great job.
So that you can have more people ask questions.
One question I want to ask before we open it up to the floor. You're looking to boost India's digital economy, and that's a large part of the budget. Part of this is launching a digital rupee in the next year. Tell me a little more about that.
That was a conscious call taken in consultation with the Central Bank, Reserve Bank of India. There's a lot of momentum, I know, and this is a topic you've touched, only restricted to the digital currency, but I'm sure the audience here will be waiting for me to say something on the crypto world itself.
Don't worry, it may be coming. The question may be
Okay.
coming, I'm warning you.
So the digital currency is something which we've had a lot of consultation with the Reserve Bank, and we would like them to design it the way they would like to do it. But this year, we expect the currency to come out from the central bank itself, because we see clear advantages in a central bank driven digital currency, because in this day and age, bulk payments happening between countries, large transactions between institutions, large transactions between central banks themselves of each country are all better enabled with the digital currency, and therefore we think the RBI would be looking to see how best they can come out with it.
Excellent. All right, well, there may be more questions. We have with us over 30 of India's unicorns in the room, excess valuation of 100 billion. My colleague Laura is going to join us on stage, and she's been speaking to some of them. So, Laura, I know they've got some questions for the Honourable Minister.
They do. First and foremost, I'd just like to say what an honour it is to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. A very promising outlook and a great dialogue there, so thank you so much. Yes, we're going to throw to our audience members now, in particular, our unicorns. As you mentioned, there are 30% of India's unicorns right here in the room today, so very exciting indeed. Now, I'm going to throw out to our first unicorn is Harsh Jain, the CEO and co-founder of Dream 11 and Dream Sports, who's here with us. Do stand up, and I'll come on over with the microphone and give us your question to the Minister.
Thank you, ma'am, for having us here. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. First of all, I'd like to say thank you so much that the government, my name is Harsh Jain and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Dream 11. We're from the gaming ecosystem. So I'd like to say thank you so much for recognizing the gaming ecosystem with this budget and the fact that India can be a gaming superpower with the AVGC policies that you've been looking at. The question is that now that we have a direction that the government is going to look at regulating it and helping to grow the 10,000 crores tax that we're already paying, we want to extend this and become the true gaming superpower that India can be. How can we facilitate with the finance ministry more clarity on things like GST so that we can take this even further?
Just clarity or more?
Clarity and a positive outcome, ma'am, if you may.
Welcome for anything. You can always communicate with anybody in the ministry, or if you desire, I can have a separate meeting where the secretaries can be present. You can coordinate with all your AVCG team,
Yes,
get as many participants to attend. We can always, across the table, discuss as to what are the issues which worry you as regards GST, and any issues related to simplification or compliance. As much as anything else, I'm quite willing to talk.
Thank you.
So once you let me know, I can always have a list of you and your colleagues, and also any competitor that you may have in the field to come over.
Collaborator, ma'am.
Collaborators? Yeah, all right.
Thank you, ma'am. We'd definitely take you up on that.
Brilliant question there, thank you. We move on over now to Ashish Singhal, founder and CEO of CoinSwitch, who was also on my panel yesterday.
Hello, ma'am. It's an honor to be here. The most dreaded sector, the crypto sector, and I represent that.
I told you it was coming.
But it's a very welcome move of the taxation in the budget, I must say. And my question goes obviously to the crypto industry in itself, which is the sector has seen tremendous growth in the last 1.5 to 2 years, not just in India, but globally as well. Now, many leading nations are taking the step forward in regulating this sector. What are your views, ma'am, in regulating the sector in India, and how do you see this progressing, the crypto sector, the VDA sector in India going forward?
You know, the antennas go up when I talk of crypto. Well, the consultations are on. You're welcome to participate in it. Anybody else here who's interested in this domain, you're welcome to participate. After the consultation process gets duly completed, the ministry would sit and probably mull over it, which is required because we need the executive to be sure that we are not, crossing any legal requirements. Post which we'll come out with saying, what's our position on it? I know you've sort of led me to say, are we regulating it or are we banning it? I'm not getting into it now. But after that, after the consultation, yes, we'll be talking about it. And I'm glad you welcomed the taxation.
Do you see a future for crypto within India?
You know, many Indians have seen a lot of future in it. And therefore I see a possibility for revenue in it.
A great question and, of course, a great answer. We move on now to Umang Bedi, co-founder of Verse Innovation.
Good morning, ma'am. I just want to start off by saying that on International Women's Day, as a father and as a husband, it just gives me immense pride to see what you're doing in your position. And I think you're such a huge inspiration to women around the world and in our country. My question is really leading on the 3 points that you raised. One, I think this has been an iconic budget from so many ways, right? It is a true recognition of a digital-first budget. The second part that you talked about with unicorns being formed and the pace at which innovation and capital is growing. How do you think these two can get married in the sense that what can startups do in conjunction with the government to drive innovation, to fuel the growth that you've charted out for the next 25 years?
I'll reframe your question. What can startups do? What else and what more can startups do in conjunction with the government? Because I think in the last few years, since after the Prime Minister announced startups and the momentum for, startups and the support that the government has to give for the startups. In 2016, we had a major gathering in the Vigyan Bhavan with the Prime Minister inviting all the startups then. Since after that, I think the government has been constantly engaging with startups from Bengaluru, from Hyderabad, from Gurgaon, and trying to work to see how we can facilitate. But of course, every time I come to to Bengaluru, because I'm an MP from this region, we've had different segments within the startups meet us and talk to us. That need not be informal. If you want a formal mechanism, you're always, and I think the Department of Industry and Internal Trade, DPIIT, is also the nodal ministry, and they're also engaging with the startups. But if you think you would be better off engaging with the finance ministry, I'm quite open. I'll fix up a date in let's say in 1.5 years, and again another date in the second half year. And we can always have a lot of exchanges. But even otherwise, you're welcome to write to the ministry, send an email, we are there responding to it. So you choose the way in which you want to engage with us, over and above all that is happening already. I'm quite okay with it.
There was a suggestion yesterday that people wanted more accelerators to help startups. Do you want to address that at all?
I'm not averse to it. I'm quite okay. But tell me where you want to locate it, how do you want to have it, and what are the ways in which you see an acceleration required. Okay. I'm okay to work with it.
All right.
Thank you, Res. We have another question from Kunal Shah, who's the founder and CEO of Cred. Here we go. What's your question?
Ma'am, it's an honor to be here. Out of the unicorns that came, I think bulk of them were fintechs, and the volume of fintech unicorns is likely to just keep rising. Would like to get the government's view on two topics, particularly digital lending through fintechs particularly, and how do you see role of neobanks or digital banks going forward? Will it eventually move away from the current players and have more players participate in that?
Banks.
Yes.
This budget again is unique in having announced that through the country we'll set up 75, and when I say through the country, I immediately want to correct myself saying if I'm talking digital, what am I talking through the country? You can all be here in Bengaluru but still be through the country. So 75 DBUs, digital banking units, have been announced in this budget. Now, even as I'm talking, or when we were talking about it, there was this thought coming in the minds of people who normally put the checks and balances into the system, said, will you have that many number of promoters coming to set up digital banking units? Because when we announce something, gone are the days when it means government is going to do it. We announce our intention saying we like to see it this way. We want people to benefit from this. And when we announce it, we say we'll make an enabling policy for it and make sure if there are some hand-holding required, we'll provide it. But it certainly does not mean that that is going to be done by the government exclusively. So when I announced 75 DBUs, digital banking units, implicitly it meant that we are looking at people who want to set it up and we'll be with them. Now, I'm glad you asked that question, and I like to see you being the first one to set up a DBU, and soon be followed by many others looking at your success to have many more DBUs in this country. We want DBUs because India is at a stage where, in spite of 75 years of pushing through a nationalized banking network, banking and financial inclusion has really not been as much as what we wanted it to be, and that made Prime Minister to come up with the Jan Dhan Yojana in 2014, where he said, I want every individual families to have accounts. I want every individual to have account. And it was on a mission mode that we worked, because I do remember being in the finance ministry then as the junior minister and working on the PM Jan Dhan Yojana. And it is because of that, let me tell you, that during the pandemic, and because simultaneously we built on the Aadhaar, the DBT and everything else, we were able to deliver at the doorstep through the DBT the kind of monies which had to reach them. Whether it was for relief, whether it is their due entitlements, everything reached because of the DBT and because of the digitized approach to banking. Now that digitized approach will have to now convert itself to be completely served through digital means. And I think our citizens have lapped up digital apps for various functions. The success of India Stack and the success of the ways in which DBT has now become one of the very efficient tools of transaction is because the common citizen of India has absolutely without hesitation taken it on his little phone, but he's proud to do his business with a QR code kept in front. So that support from the common citizen assures me that digital banking is that what they want rather than what is the way forward for the government. We'll have to walk along with them. We'll have to provide the facility for it. So that's, did I miss your first question? Yeah, digital lending. Let me tell you very briefly. What was this aggregator? Accounts aggregator. We said every individual's credit transactions or his bank operations are all data available. If there are authorized account aggregators functioning, and if you're able to therefore access data which is necessary for, let us say, credit inclusion of an individual, it is happening through the account aggregator. So digital banking there, digital credit extension there.
Thank you so
Happy
much.
to become one of the first DBUs? Okay.
One last point which I would like to answer there is also the fintech's growth is not surprising me. Haven't we come up with a global financial center, IFSC, in Gujarat? And that is going to now create so many different options, so many different ways in which fintechs can service. And this is going to be a service, the globe, with your fintech skills. So it is not just for us, it's not just within India. So fintech growing as a result of the government's push for a global financial services center is only but natural, and I'm very glad it's happening.
Thank you so much. We're going to now throw out to the rest of our unicorns, and then hopefully after that to the wider audience. So please do get some good questions going. We do have some more time. So if you are a unicorn, you have another question, please do raise your hand, and I'll come over with the microphone. Do we have any more? Yes. Please do tell us who you are and your company name as well. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Rahul. I represent Swiggy. We are a food delivery platform. One thing which I would like to bring to your attention is the whole FDI bit for Indian companies. So historically, mostly strategic capital used to come through the FDI route, but today it's a lot more investor capital, which is financial in nature. They do not want to control these companies. So the whole concept of majority foreign owned, but India controlled. So is that something that the government will be willing to look at? Because that will help us to unlock a lot more value creation within the country.
But isn't that what has driven our FDI policy for various sectors? Because we are looking at investment capital. We are looking at even, in fact, we've gone to the extent of saying we're quite happy for them to be in the board. If they choose not to be in the board, very welcome, that's their choice. But we have enabled fund coming in, investment funds coming in, and also opening up the management in such a way that it is completely democratized, and to the extent of one's share capital, a space in the board is naturally, through the company's law, works. But if you choose to say out, that's very well. Nobody is going to restrict them from bringing in investment capital and also equally compelling them to sit in the board. No board, no choice, that's fine.
Right. So a specific question on that, ma'am, just if I had a follow-on question on that, is basically the restrictions that are, on foreign controlled companies, right? The FDI restrictions that exist in the country. Now, specifically for domestically, grown up startups, which have financial, majority ownership from foreign capital, we kind of get restricted in the same FDI bucket. So maybe I'll present, a paper to your office.
You can please present the paper, and I'll gladly look into it. It's one thing to talk about investable fund, investable capital, and a totally different thing if you talk about investment companies. Right?
Absolutely.
So do send me
financial capital. So thank you.
Great question. Do we have any more questions from our unicorns in the audience? Any more questions from our unicorns? I'm going to give you one last chance. If not, I think we're going to throw out to our wider audience over here. Please do tell us who you are and where you're from as well, please. Here we go.
Thank you, ma'am. Myself, Dr. Vijay Holimut. I'm founder of Witsbox IT Solution. So we do make chips, fibrous chips. So we have customers across the globe. One of my major concerns is that we do have customers in China as well. So they have a law to protect IPs for Chinese companies if there is a conflict. So there is a Beijing Trade Center, and then in collaboration with the WTO, they can resolve it. But I haven't seen any things from the Indian government. I was in touch with the Minister of Foreign Trade. So the answer was not encouraging. So I was wondering how we can protect our IPs. Especially we are in processors, graphics computing. I think you might be knowing AMD or Intel companies. We are into that. So we are export oriented. I'm concerned about how we protect our IPs I would like to have assistance from the Indian government. Thank you.
I think on IPs, I'd like to believe in the last few years, extensive consultation had happened. Please do sit down. Consultation had happened. A policy was put out. The policy was adapted later. After the consultation, it was adopted. Several mechanisms to reduce the time from the time of application to get the approval has been made. The time has been reduced. And also the number of approval giving specialists who are got to be recruited had also been brought in. There was an IPAB, the Intellectual Property Appellate Board, which got revamped. It was abolished. The entire process had to be cut down in terms of any litigation that arises out of it. And in fact, I was saying yesterday when I met up with the startups, I recognize and I fully appreciate the effort the Delhi High Court has made in that they've set up a separate bench to take care of litigation arising out of increasing number of patent-related, copyright-related cases. And that is now going to be spread all over the country. You're going to have probably in Bengaluru, in Chennai, or Bengaluru, Hyderabad and Mumbai. So no backlogs in litigation, speedy disposal, and also a judicious approach to the matter. The framework has also been made, rules have been set, and this is all about handling cases arising out of conflicts, dispute arising out of IP related matters. That's moving fast. I can see it. I was part of the High Court where I went to inaugurate this whole bench that they've set. So a separate bench to handle. But if you're asking me about specific time that it takes for a patent to be registered and to be carefully protected through proper rules, I'm possibly giving you a second-hand answer, second-hand information-based answer, but I'll certainly take it up and check up if there's any issue. But you're welcome to write to me if there are any specific issues that you want me to look into and get sorted out.
Thank you. So we want to get a little bit of audience participation at this point. We've got a couple of poll questions and we'll come back in a moment. So if you have questions, in a moment put your hand up and we'll come to you. First of all, we want to ask you a question about, do you think that the boom in unicorns that we've seen would have happened without the pandemic? So do you think that yes or no? Would the unicorn boom have happened without the pandemic? Yes? Okay. Anyone for no? Anyone think it would have happened without the pandemic? Okay, a couple. Should we get why do you think that?
I think every crisis accelerates a behavior that is more efficient, and I think everybody was forced to adopt more digital behavior. I think crisis accelerates efficiency and eventualities, and what happened is because of the restrictions, a lot of people actually were forced to or had to adopt digital things, and I think that accelerated a behavior change. Just give an example, my dad, who was averse to apps, thanks to the COVID vaccination and everything, was out there downloading the app and figuring out everything on his own, and now he's pretty much on his own on all the apps. So I think it was just, there was a CTO in every household between the age group of 14 and 21, and eventually everybody else became tech savvy as well.
Thank you. We've got another question as well, which is just on the screen behind me. Which do you think had the biggest impact in creating unicorns in India? You can see the choices. Who thinks demographics? All right. What about a strong startup ecosystem? Some more votes for that. What about government initiatives? All right, you know who your friends are here in the room. What about venture capital and other investor appetite? Strong support for that. What about anything else? Other? Right, so
there should have been one more.
What was that?
All of this.
Thank you. All right. What other questions have we got from the audience?
We're going to throw out to the audience one more time. Let's, this lovely lady over here, if you tell us who you are and where you're from as well, please.
Thank you. I'm Shweta Rajpal Kohli from Sequoia Capital India. And I think initiatives like the India Global Forum that are talking about taking Indian startups global is a fantastic move. And ma'am, under your leadership, both your ministries, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs as well as the Ministry of Finance, has moved significantly forward on the proposal to allow startups to list directly overseas. And we strongly believe, as we engage with many founders like the ones you see in this room and unicorns, that they are now ready to perhaps tap overseas capital markets. We'd love to understand if there's any movement forward on that reform, which we think will be the biggest game changer for putting Indian startups on the global map.
You're aware of the position. We moved forward and we'll move forward.
Ma'am, any timelines, because startups are waiting to understand this?
That's more like a journalist's question rather than a business's question.
Yes, any more questions? Obviously in line with our theme, the New India Inc. Yes, a gentleman over there. Maybe there's a microphone at that end, so we don't have to run over. Yes, you just tell us who you are and where you're from as well, please.
Very good morning, ma'am. My name is Manohar. I'm CFO at ShareChat. We are a regional language social media platform. My question to you is, as we see more investor interest globally, there is a small restriction that is put on foreign portfolio investors from investing in foreign direct investments. And considering that we want to supercharge the investment ecosystem, is there a thought process in terms of resolving this as public market investors start looking at private companies more keenly? Should we think in the direction of resolving this, which will probably open more capital doors?
How do you want us to resolve it?
This restriction looks like, it was probably very good in older days, but now the lines between public and private companies is blurring, and all it needs is for them to go through the process of setting up a new entity. The same entity cannot invest in FDI and FPI. If we can take some steps in direction of resolving this, maybe on a case-by-case basis, that would, I think, open many more capital space.
Let me work out something.
Thank you.
Time about 5 more minutes. There's 2 questions just in there. Obviously on International Women's Day, delighted to take questions from women, especially.
Tell us who you are and where you're from, please.
My name is Bharti Harish, and I run a boutique called Madhurya to promote Indian heritage weaves and crafts. My question to ma'am specifically is that among the unicorns, there are only 5 women. So I would like to, she's our first woman finance minister. I would like to understand from her what should we as women change in our attitude or outlook so that we can come more confidently to the forefront and lead and become more unicorns as well.
They should just observe you. Soft and gentle but firm. I've seen your hand being put up 3-4 times and finally the mic reached you. Perseverance.
Thank you.
Well, that is a good moment to end on. So we want to thank all of you for your attention, for participating, and for your commitment to building the New India Inc. And thank you so much, Honourable Minister, for being with us here this morning. Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you very much, and it was great being here.
Thank you.